Hey, howdy guys, happy holidays. I hope you all are enjoying holidays. In this video, we're going to see what if Naruto has Ddraig and Albion. This is part one, and if you want second part of this video, please leave a like. It helps me to motivate to upload more. Also, huge shout out the author of this story, Hector Flores, and all details in description. Let's get in the video. There are many things that a young child goes through life, but being born with no one to guide him has to be one of the toughest one, or at least that is what I used to think. Turns out that I had no clue what was tough. But then again, what can you expect from me? I had a tough time trying to find clothes to wear or something to eat. If someone tells me again that orphanages exist to make sure kids like me find a happy home, and they're there to make sure while we wait to be adopted, we are supposed to be under the supervision of caring people, I am liable to tell them they're full of shit and they need to get their head out of their ass because that is not healthy to have their heads up there. My days at the orphanage can be pretty much described as hell. I never got to wear decent clothes, rags I got from the dumpsters, never got to eat any good food, again, food I found in the dumpsters, and you can imagine where I was told to sleep? That is right by the dumpsters where I found the rags I got to wear and found my food in. I'm not kidding, for 5 long years, that is how I lived. Honestly, the person in charge of the orphanage, if anything, was more disappointed how I grew up than even me. I mean, how many times did she have to scream that she actually expected me to die? Now you probably are wondering, what is my name? Well, that depends on who you ask. The people at the orphanage called me a freak, and the people in the village where the orphanage was called me either demon or hellspawn, and this was from people that went to the orphanage to adopt kids. At age 8, the people in the orphanage pretty much either figured that I was not going to die under their watch, no matter how much glass they tried to feed me, and so they decided to summarily kick me out. I think the words they use is that I was a waste of space, since not even a nutcase would ever adopt something like me. Some would say that it was heartless of them to throw me out on my own, but then again, it was really not any different than when I lived there. If anything, I was actually quite happy to leave that place. I found a nice, almost livable place by the dumpster of a local restaurant. I actually managed to find a rather horrible jumpsuit. The blasted thing had to be the single ugliest thing I ever wore, and this is coming from a guy that grew up wearing rags. I also learned exactly why the village and the orphanage hated my guts. It was my 8th birthday present from the villagers. Isn't it nice of them to finally tell me why they hated my guts? I was chased across the entire village, and finally, when I was against a wall, they ganged up on me and began beating me with brooms, large pieces of wood, anything they could get their hands on. Finally, I looked at them as they got tired. Why do you hate me? What did I do to you? I haven't done anything wrong. So why do you hate me? I couldn't help asking that as the tears on my face ran down my face and got mixed with the blood from my wounds. You honestly don't know, or are you stupid enough not to remember? I will tell you why we want you dead and what you did to us. You are the reincarnation of the damned fox demon that killed our loved ones and friends, you stupid demon brat. You attacked our homes and burned down a large portion of our village. That is why you deserve this. Why won't you just die? That is when I felt a strong pain in the middle of my gut. I looked down and saw that someone had gotten his hand on a pitchfork, and he actually stabbed me with it. It hurt so bad, much worse than what I felt as I was being beaten before. Everything went dark, and I was in a musky cave. The cave was dark, and there was no light. As I kept searching the cave, I kept walking down the cave until I got to the largest part of the cave. In the middle of the cave, I saw a large lake. I thought that might as well try and clean myself off. I walked over to the lake, and as I looked at my reflection, I was surprised. I didn't look at all human. I had this weird body. My body looked like a large winged lizard, and my body was in 2 different colors, and thank God it was not orange. It was a splash of red and wild, and the 2 colors swirled in where my chest should be. I looked, and feeling a bit thirsty, I bent down and began to drink the water. As I got my fill, I saw a much larger dragon looking at me, and he was smiling at me. So I finally have found you, Naruto, or I guess the humans call you Naruto. It took a human nearly killing you for your mind to finally connect to mine. That human dared to call you a demon fox. What a fool he is. I am the Red Dragon Emperor. My name is Ddraig, but to you, I am something more than a dragon. I rather you call me father, for you see my young dragon. You are my long-lost son. I looked at his green eyes, and I saw that my eyes were blue. Guess Mom had blue eyes. So you are my father. Don't mean to sound disrespectful, but where have you been, Dad? Where is Mom? Did you two abandon me? Didn't you love me or want me at all? He looked at me, and I felt like he suddenly jumped out of the lake and was near me. He put his massive arms around me and pulled me closer to him and hugged me. My child, you were stolen by some unknown power. Your mother and I have been searching for you for centuries. We would never abandon you. We love you. Your mother might not have found you like I did, but never again will we be apart. I couldn't stop myself from crying, and I couldn't stop crying since I didn't know why I was crying. The tears just kept coming. I know these humans treated you badly, son. Don't worry. Once you wake up, you will still look like one of them. But never forget, my son. You are not a human. You are a dragon. The only son that I and Sylvana, the White Dragon Empress, ever had. Let the filthy humans try and kill you. Our existence is much greater than they ever could be. You have awakened your true self, and as such you have the chance of obtaining power beyond their wildest wishes. I shall show you how to use your real abilities in your dreams. If you ever wish to speak with me, just find a clear pool of water and call out to me. I looked at him and hugged him too. I was not abandoned. I was not thrown away. My parents did love me. This made me feel so happy. I could not remember ever feeling this happy in my entire life. I will make you proud, Father. I will find a way to learn to fight and be strong. I will get these humans to respect me. I will show them I am better than they are. Dad began to laugh and pat me on my back as he did. Now that is what I would expect from my son. Don't you worry, son. I will be here with you. Let's show these bald monkeys that we dragons are better than they are. As I closed my eyes, I felt like I was in a room that could be described as a room that lacked color. I mean, the walls, the ceiling, and even the bed was all white. I have never been to this place before. I never saw a room with so much white in my entire life. Awake, are we? I am sorry that happened to you, Naruto. I really should have sent my Yinbyu to keep an eye on you. You somehow managed to survive something that would kill any other kid. You don't have to worry, the people who try to kill you will not hurt you again. I looked at him, and I got to admit I saw him talking to the director of the orphanage a couple of times. I think this man actually donated to the orphanage I grew up in. Sorry, sir, but I think you actually donate to the orphanage I grew up in, but I don't know who you are. You know my name, but I don't know you. The old man began to laugh, and he took off this rather odd-looking large hat off his head. I suppose that will not do. I am the leader of the village you were born in and live in. This place is called Konoha, and I am the Hokage. My name is Hiruzen Sarutobi. I know your name because it was written on the blanket that we found you in. He looked at me as he walked over to the bed I was on and sat near me. Tell you the truth, it was a rather odd blanket, had more scales than cloth. What do you want to do, Naruto? Do you know what our village is known for? I looked at him and I looked at myself. I was dressed in a rather flimsy-looking cloth. The darn thing didn't even cover my rear if the way the piece of cloth felt. I don't know much about anything. I only learned to talk hearing people talk, and I know how to read because of an old book I found. He looked at me and began to nod his head as he heard me say that, Naruto, this village is known for training warriors, strong men who fight and defend our people. We called these men ninjas. As the Hokage, I am the leader of the ninja of this village. Don't you want to be able to defend yourself, Naruto? Fight for something bigger than yourself? To defend others so they don't suffer the way you have suffered? I still couldn't understand why he needed to ask me that. You see, Naruto, the ninja of this village, we believe in a philosophy which guides our lives. We call it the will of fire. Everyone in the village is part of a large family, Naruto. We are all flames that are part of a bigger fire. If we help each other and stand with each other, no matter the obstacle, no matter how fierce the wind is, or how much it rains, our flames will not die. For you see, Naruto, together we are a fire that can stand up to anything, but separate we would not survive. This is the will of fire, Naruto, that we should live and work to help each other, and thus we become strong. I couldn't believe he had the gall to say something like that to me, especially after I went through. I could tell him he was full of shit. I could scream at him that his entire philosophy was nonsense since the villagers were more than happy to try and kill me. I, however, had to agree with him on one thing. It was a nice sentiment. The other thing I could agree with him is that I needed to become stronger. I needed to earn their respect and make them see I was not the weakling they thought I was. My dragon pride demanded it. I looked at him and smiled. I guess I would be able to defend others if I became stronger, and people would not do something like this again if I was one of these defenders you told me about. What did you call them, ninjas? Do you think I could be a ninja, old man? He laughed, and he looked at me with a smile on his face. Why, yes. Naruto, I think you could be a fine ninja if you work hard at it. I know, why don't you join the Ninja Academy? I will give you a monthly allowance, a small apartment for you to live in, and you can use the books in my office to learn. Now come on, get up. We need to get you to eat something. Once we get you to eat something, We will get you some clothes and some things you will need. Just remember this, Naruto. As the leader of this village, the ninja protect the people, and so do I. So if anyone bullies you, you come right to my office and tell me all about it. Can you promise me that, Naruto? I could tell him that he pretty much failed to do that most of my life. But then again, I don't think Dad would be happy if I was that petty. I had to be bigger than that. After all, I'm the son of the Red Dragon Emperor and the White Dragon Empress. Sure thing, old man, but what exactly am I going to be eating? You mean I have to go dig in a dumpster wearing this thing? He laughed again as he walked near me and helped me get off the table and stand on the ground near him. No, Naruto, you will not have to do that ever again. Tell me, Naruto, have you ever had a food called ramen before? I began to shake my head and he began to laugh again. In that case, let's get you dressed. I can tell you are going to love this food as much as I do. We walked out of the room and I found my orange jumpsuit on a table nearby. I quickly put it on. I hated the color, but then again, it was the only piece of clothing I owned, even if it did have 3 puncture holes in the front and back of it. As we walked out of the hospital, that is what the old man said the place was called, we walked down the streets, and as I walked, I began to realize something very funny. They believe in something called the will of fire. Kind of ironic that they hate me. They believe in the will of fire, and they hate the very being that actually can breathe the very fire they hold so dear. I better tell this to Dad once I see him in my dreams. I think he will find this as funny as I do. I guess going to ninja school dressed in orange would be like pretty much saying kill me. So I decided to go with black clothes with red highlights. At the time, I felt it looked rather nice. The glares I am getting from everyone as I walk into the academy, while they are typical and atypical. I guess these idiots never figured that I could also attend. I was told the number of my class and took the time to learn the layout of the academy. Turns out that I possess an energy that is simply too much for a simple clone jutsu, so I ended up having to learn one that was forbidden, the Shadow Clone Jutsu. I honestly don't know why it is called forbidden if every jounin in the entire village can do it and know how to do it. Thanks to the Shadow Clones, I managed to read quite a bit, so I actually felt pretty ready for anything they would throw at me in class. As I got to my classroom, I decided to knock on the door. That is when a man with a scar that was across his face and across his nose came to the door. You must be the new student the Hokage told me about. Come right in, just let me say something to my class. Don't want them to jump to the wrong conclusion, now do we? As we walked in, I walked and stood right by his side as he stood behind his little podium. Class will have some good news. We have a new student joining us from today. I want you to be considerate of him, for he is a war orphan like I am. Come on, introduce yourself. A girl with short pink hair stood up and looked at me. We don't need to hear an introduction from this freak. We already know who he is. What we should want is this freak be executed. But since we can't have that, why don't we just kick him out of the academy? We can't have the monster that attacked our village get even stronger. I had more than enough of her monologue and decided to look at her. She immediately stopped talking. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Let's get a few things straight. I am not the reincarnation of any demon or demon fox. In fact, I smell the scent of a fox coming from one of you. Now you are free to hate me. You are free to call me names, but remember that it was your Hokage that ordered me to be here. You want me to leave? Fine. I will do that, but I will tell the Hokage who it was that made it impossible for me to be here as he ordered. I might not be liked, but that is considered treason. Do you know the punishment for that is? That made the rest of the class become really quiet. I looked at my teacher and waited to be told where my seat was. He told me it was on the middle row in the seat by the window. I sat down on my seat, and that is when I got the scent of a fox, and it was coming from someone I already didn't like. It was coming from the very girl that tried to make the entire class get me to be kicked out of the ninja academy. Ironic that the girl that wanted me to be dead was the very person whom the village should be hating instead of me. As I sat down, I saw a guy who looked like was born with a bored look on his face. A person who had a puppy on his head. A person who wore a hoodie and dark glasses in the classroom. I also noticed the previously mentioned pink-haired girl and a girl with short blonde hair stare at the guy sitting right next to me. I know that I really should mind my own business, but something about the way they were staring at him made me feel a lot of pity towards the guy. Since we are more than likely going to be sitting here for a long time, some introductions would not hurt. You know who I am? Mind telling me who you are? The guy with the puppy began to laugh, and the bored guy just nodded his head. I am Kiba of the Inuzuka clan. The puppy is my friend and partner Akamaru. The guy who looks bored is, believe it or not, the smartest guy in the class, Shikimaru of Clan Nara, and the guy who you probably think is blind is Shino of Clan Aburame. The guy with the dark charcoal-colored eyes and the straight black hair is the illustrious Sasuke, last member of the Uchiha clan. I looked at him and slapped on his back, and he began to glare at me. Nice to meet you guys. Let's try and get along, shall we? Don't worry, you can pretend you hate my guts when we are out in public. I wouldn't want to cause problems for your families, but in here, let's be friends. Well, except Sasuke, since he is my cousin. That is the moment when Sasuke stopped glaring and had a confused look on his face. Okay, mind telling me why we are cousins? As far as I know, I had no relative here. I couldn't help but laugh. I'm the last member of the Uzumaki clan, which I guess a little history is not mentioned in your family. My family is what some consider an offshoot or a branch family of the Senju clan, which was founded by the brother of the man who founded the Uchiha clan. This pretty much means that we are cousins, and since the Hyuga clan is also much like the Uzumaki clan, that means the Hyuga clan members are also our cousins. Did I get that right, teacher? The man was surprised as I turned around and looked at him. For the most part, yes. Thank you for handling that part of today's lesson, Naruto. Mind telling me, where did you learn that? You are an orphan. I doubt your father or mother left any family books for you to read. I looked at him and faked a smile. Actually, I was given access to the library by the Hokage. I decided to do some reading to come prepared for my classes. I happen to have already read all the history material about the founding to present. Sasuke looked at me and began shaking his head. So if I want to find someone to share notes with, I should ask you, Naruto? I looked at him and began shaking my head. I would not suggest it. Cousin, I write in a language you might not understand, Akamaru, and other animals sure, but you not so much. I wrote my name on a piece of paper, and to them, it was just a badly drawn series of doodles. Little did they know I was actually using the language of my kind, which is, since it is one of the most ancient of the animals' languages, is well known by most animals. See, I rather write notes in a language I am comfortable. I will write the answers in the same language that the books use, but in my notes, like I said, I rather feel comfortable. As the class continued, I came up with the right answers every time I was asked, but somehow I got the feeling that they were not being recorded. Mizuki, the teacher's aide, was more obvious about it. I knew that from the way his aura felt, he had great resentment towards me. The negative part of studying ahead in my case is that I knew what they were trying to teach. The lesson was more of a review than an actual lesson. Sasuke got the treatment I would call the royal treatment. No answer he gave was wrong, and the sheer happiness showed when Mizuki heard his answers was a little on the abnormal side. The class after lunch, which by the way I didn't get to eat lunch, was a physical skills class and practice time. Again, my attempts to get them to notice my skills were ignored, and I realized that he was going to be the norm for how Mizuki, in particular, treated me. My first sparring match was against someone named Niji, and he seemed to be angry with me for some reason I had not figured out. I decided to use a basic hand-to-hand combat style. My family had their own fighting style, but I saw no need to show them my family fighting style. That is something I would reserve for enemies, for my family fighting was not as tender or forgiving as the ones my classmates learned. My family focused on the elimination of an enemy. There was no kindness or mercy in our way of fighting, to bring complete destruction and ruin to my enemy. The people in my classroom were not my enemies, and such I could not use my family's fighting style. I would send all my classmates to an early grave if I did. I did my best to show that I was able to fight, but since this was the first day of class, I held back a lot of my own strength, which honestly was a mistake on my part. Niji looked at me as if I was an insect. You are within my divination field, Naruto. It is your fate to lose to me. I hate the way some people say that something happens because it is fate. If that was true, I would have been dead a long time ago. To me, those that say something is fated to happen, they gave up and decided to either say they succeeded because fate determined they would, or they failed because it was out of their control. As I began to fight and I stopped holding back my strength, I kicked a tree, and that is the moment when Irika, the other teacher of my class, decided to stop the fight. As the other students left, he told me to stay behind. The pink-haired girl who I learned was named Sakura, and the short-haired blonde girl who I learned was named Ino teased me about me being in trouble. Naruto, if you had hit Niji with that kick, you could have hurt him very badly. Remember, Naruto, I will call a stop to a match if either of you could lose your life due to the fight. Why did you kick this tree this hard? He stepped close to the tree and touched where I kicked it. The tree began to shake and it began to crack as if it was made of porcelain. The cracks were easy for me to see, and the tree fell down in pieces. I hate it when people use a crotch to say that they will win, simply because some other unknown and chaotic force determined the result of a fight. It makes me feel like that person is not even trying, and that I am not worth enough for him to put in actual effort. It's insulting, so I decided to show him how wrong he was. Iruka smiled and began to nod his head. This is probably what his cousin feels too. Hinata's cousin is a student in our class. I understand what you mean, Naruto, but remember that your fellow students are also your fellow citizens of our village. Remember that we are supposed to help each other. Only then can we grow strong. Remember the will of fire. I decided to go home and decided to take a couple of books with me. For some odd reason, Hiruzen didn't say anything to me as I got the books and left. Something didn't feel right. It was almost as if he saw my fight with Niji, and he was trying to show me he was not pleased with what I did. I didn't care either way. He certainly didn't care when the orphanage or the people of the village made my life miserable. He can keep his disappointment because I can match it and surpass it with my own. As I slept, I was back in the place where I met my father, and I was back in my dragon form. I walked towards the crystal clear lake and looked as my father's face appeared on the surface. Son, don't tell me you are going to forgive these humans after all they have done? You were an awful nicer than these creatures deserved. Tell me, Naruto, why did you do that? Why were you nicer than they ever were with you? I looked at my father and began shaking my head. Those acts are the deeds of other people in the village, not the humans I study with. I will use that academy to grow strong. I will, however, not do the same mistakes these humans seem to always do. I shall give them a chance to prove to me they are better than the rest of the village. Father looked at me and began laughing. And if they prove to be as foul and dishonorable like those that made you suffer? I looked at him and I touched my claw to the back of my head, and I rubbed the back of my neck. If they are as bad as the rest of the humans, I will pretend not to notice. I will grow stronger than any of them, and when they need for me to save them, I shall treat them with the same amount of mercy they showed me. Father seemed to like that answer, as I would expect from my son. Good. I was worried that the delusional speech of that old human might convince you to let yourself be used by them. Now come, son. We have a lot of things for you to learn, and time is not a luxury we can afford while living in enemy territory. I looked at him and began to nod my head as I smiled. The first thing you need to learn is control. Your power is much stronger than the measly energy they use. They are humans while you are a dragon. Even among dragons, we stand above them, for we are divine dragons. First, you need to learn to concentrate and feel your power, control it, and have a precise feel of your power. It should be second nature, as easy as breathing. Like I said, we don't have much time, so make 20 of those things the human book said. What did they call them? Shadow clones? In a big cloud of smoke, 20 copies of myself appeared. Father seemed to be happy that I didn't wait to hear him say when to start. Good. Now all of you follow my instructions to the letter. I will not accept anything else other than excellence. As the only son of 2 divine dragons, no one would expect less. I knew Dad would teach me in my sleep, and I know that he did it for my benefit, but that didn't mean that the training was not frustrating, painful, and demanding. Hell, I had more trouble keeping up with his demands than I did learning from Iruka and Mizuki combined. I had no idea that my dad was such a slave driver. As the training was over, I fell down exhausted, and for some strange reason, I didn't have a dream. I only saw a deep darkness, like I was looking at the night sky, but without any stars visible. I got up the next morning feeling sore. I got up from my bed and went to take a shower. I swear my bruises has bruises. As I got dressed and ate breakfast, I began to realize something. Well, I guess compared to how Dad was training me, learning to be a ninja is not going to be hard at all. I wonder if this is what my life will be like from now on. Training both when I am awake and in my dreams was making my life difficult, to say the least. I felt the strain all day and still managed to get through all my class, but still, I didn't expect them to give me an exam so soon. I did my very best to answer the questions, but somehow this exam, I got the feeling that it was not the same one my classmates got. Some of the questions I was reading came from stuff that was not even assigned reading. Had I not been able to use the Shadow Clone Jutsu, I would never have gotten to even read the books that covered the material. I finished my exam, and I knew I answered the questions correctly. I handed it in. Mizuki was smiling for some odd reason. I went back to my seat and began to check in my mind my answers. As the last person handed in the last exam, I finished and realized that yes, I did answer every single question correctly. Our class was dismissed for lunch, and I did what I did last time. I jumped up and caught the small bag my shadow clone threw at me. I left 2 shadow clones, one to gather ingredients and the other to cook and deliver my lunch. I had found the day before that the only place for me to eat lunch in peace was on the rooftop of the academy. It was a rather easy matter to use some of my energy on my feet and walk up the wall. Nothing compared to the things my father made me do last night. As I sat down and began to eat my boxed lunch, I heard someone. I turned around, and wouldn't you know it, it was my cousin Sasuke. "Fancy meeting you, cousin. Came here to eat your lunch?" Sasuke was catching his breath, almost like he ran up to where I was, that in getting away from my stalkers. "Honestly, Naruto, how did you get up here?" "I am an Uchiha elite, but I didn't think there was anyone else that knew about chakra control exercises." I continued eating my food and looked at him. I read, "It's in the academy library, available to all students." Now, if you will excuse me, I need to finish my lunch. I just know they're going to tell us the results of our exams during physical skills. Sasuke sat down right in front of me and began glaring at me. "And how would you know they planned to tell us how we did on that surprise exam during then?" I didn't bother to look at him and try to finish my meal. I simply asked him to try and remember who it was that teaches physical skills for our class. That is when he became rather quiet. I guess he finally figured out that the person was the same person who gave us our surprise exam. "So Naruto, what did you answer the math question on the exam?" "I think it was question number 7. Thank goodness I finished eating when he asked that. I would have choked otherwise. Damn it, I knew that I got a different exam. I guess it goes to show that I shouldn't trust these humans after all." Here I try to give them a chance, and Mizuki pulls something like this. I pretended to scratch the back of my head and pretend to appear like I was thinking about it really hard. The shadow clone that delivered my lunch just happened to see the exam Sasuke was talking about on the top of our teacher's desk. As the clone ran out of energy, I got the memory. "Oh, you mean the question with the trajectory? 25 meters per second. What did you answer, Sasuke?" He looked like I'd taken a big weight off his shoulders. I mean, really, his posture got relaxed and he began to breathe easier. "The answer is incorrect, Naruto. I guess I don't have to worry about you getting the top grade in our class. Since you read so much, I was afraid that I might have some competition for the top grade position in our class." I put the box into my side pouch and smiled at him. "I wouldn't worry too much about it, cousin. I get the feeling I will not be much competition in that regard. Now how about we talk about your stalker problem? I have an idea that might help you out." He looked at me with a smile. "What do you suggest?" "Remember, we aren't supposed to know that much about jutsu theory yet." I looked at him and couldn't help but laugh, "Which is why it will work. They will never expect it from anyone in our class. You change to look like me, and I change to look like you. I take off one way, and you take off another. When we are far away enough from each other, we hide. We change back to normal, and they will not even expect it." He began to nod his head and laughed. "Even if they managed to follow us, they would be following you instead of me. I bet that would be quite the shock. So you know who my stalkers, don't you?" I got up from the roof and looked at him with a smile. "Why, it's your unofficial fan club. Ino and Sakura, who else? I imagine they're trying to learn as much as they can about you, to be able to ask you out on a date." He looked up at the sky and began shaking his head. "I do need to find myself a wife or several. The council no doubt will try to put me under the CRA and have my clan increase in number as soon as possible." I looked at him and began shaking my head. "First, you need to worry about graduating. We still have 5 more years to go. Secondly, they would not put you under the Clan Restoration Act until you were considered to be old enough. Like I said, we got 5 years, so you got plenty of time to find someone or several people to be the mothers of your children." I walked down the wall, and he used a tree to walk down from the rooftop. I quickly jumped off the wall and began to walk towards our class. "Naruto, don't you need a wife or several to rebuild your clan?" I just kept walking and felt the question Sasuke asked me was silly, right down ridiculous, to tell you the truth. Every woman I saw hated my guts simply for being able to breathe. The very notion that one of these women would one day be the mother of my kids. Well, let's just say it really took a lot of effort on my part to keep myself from throwing up my lunch. The very idea of it made me feel sick, like I ate the single most vile thing in creation. It took a great deal of discipline and willpower to keep myself from hurling. I walked towards the practice field, and sure enough, there was Sasuke's stalkers, the teacher who hates my guts enough to throw his ethics down the nearest sewer, and a classroom with a handful of people I actually can hold a conversation with. This is my fate, as Niji would say. Well, to hell with it. I would fake that nothing is wrong, and the idiots of this village would never be able to tell. I would use anything and everything to grow in power, and once I was as strong as I could get using gathered knowledge, Then I will show these idiots that they can shout, scream, and hate me all they want, but in the end I will not need any of them, but they will know they need me more than I ever did them. My dragon pride might be hidden, but it exists, and I will have these hairless monkeys know the truth. They have only lived a minuscule fraction of what we the dragons have lived. I guess it boils down to me using the most powerful tool a ninja has, and use it I shall. These humans have no idea who they are messing with, and how badly it can come to hurt you in the end. Let's see if this human can learn. I went on with my day and completed my training. Sasuke was actually grateful that I offered to help him escape his stalkers, or he was really good at faking it. I still had to figure that guy out. I took a bath in the public open-air bath, and I got to say the water was wonderful for soothing my aches and pains. I decided that I would take baths there more regularly since Dad is more than likely going to keep pushing me during my training as I sleep. I honestly can tell you pushing my boost ability to my near breaking point was harsh, to say the least. Make me levitate an entire statue using my energy from one hand was painful, to say the least. The real treat was that I actually came in, and just as I was enjoying my bath, a white-haired man began to look through the wall that separates the men and women's side of the bath, which to me, and anyone else if there was any, would be considered an insult to the women bathing, because they were being viewed naked without their approval. Peeping is the common term. I did my best to swim under the water in the large sauna area, and without even him noticing, I got behind him, and I swear he was acting every bit the pervert, giggling while taking notes on a piece of paper. I took a deep breath, and without him even noticing me, I sent my fire breath right at the towel he was wearing. I left before he even noticed that something was burning. Next thing I know, I heard a loud yell, and someone jumping high in the air, landing head first on the women's side of the pool. I gotta say to the ladies, they sure know how to make a nice rhythm on that drum. Did I say drum? I am sorry, I mean they sure knew how to beat a pervert in such a way that it produced a rather nice melody. It has a real upbeat rhythm. I am no expert when it comes to music, but put a nice romantic set of lyrics to it, and I could see people dancing while hearing it. As I got dressed, I have to give credit to the pervert. He took the beating that would kill most people, and he actually recovered enough to get dressed fast enough to catch up to me. So it was you who ruined my chance at collecting some research data. I will have you know my research is a great benefit to this village. I was not about to listen to some pervert telling me his perverted violation of the privacy of several human females was actually done to benefit anyone, well, anyone other than his own perverted entertainment. Oh, please, you are nothing more than a stinking pervert. You can try to say any excuse, but that doesn't change the fact you violated the privacy of those women. You wanted to see them naked? Why didn't you ask for their permission? He'll pay them. There is such a career as modeling after all. So keep your excuses for someone gullible enough to believe them. You are a pervert, nothing else. He looked at me and really had a hurt look on his face. He began to do this weird little dance. Men worship me and women love me. I am known from east to west, for I am Jiraiya the Toad Mountain Sage. I looked at him, and if he thought that I would be impressed, he was waiting for his breath. I took a deep breath and let out a stream of fire that had him jumping up in the air, trying to avoid my flames. You can try to impress others, but you don't impress me. I saw your real nature, and it is nothing honorable or sagely about it. You are a pervert. This time it was just a warning. Do that again, and I am telling the Hokage about you. Now get lost, you stinking pervert. That was the final straw on the guy as he walked right up to me, with a furious look on his face. Okay, you don't find me impressive, fine punk, but get one thing straight, I am no mere pervert. I am a super pervert. I walked away, leaving the idiot, like that makes it better, who is so proud of their moral flaws that they become angry, because I didn't recognize how depraved he really was. I walked towards the office of the Hokage. I got the treatment I was expecting. His secretary told me to get the hell out of the building, crawl in a hole, and die. That is when I noticed the small sign with her name on it. It was on a picture frame, and I recognized someone from my class. You know, Mrs. Haruno, I am a classmate of your daughter. I happen to sit a few seats away from her. Let me let you in on a little secret. I happen to have a better sense than my friend Akamaru, and he is the partner of Kiba Inuzuka. You know how good their sense of smell is, well mine is better. She looked at me, or maybe I should just say she glared at me. What is the point in telling me that foxes are supposed to have a good sense of smell? You being a demon fox, I am not surprised that you do have a good sense of smell. I decided to push the intercom button. The light came on, and I knew that the people inside the office were hearing me. Excuse me, Hokage, but I just came to report something that I found rather disturbing when I was taking a bath in the public bath and sauna of our village. I know it is late, But would you mind hearing what I found? There was a silence, and then I heard the old man's voice. Sure, Naruto, you know you can always come and have a chat with me. Come right in, the door is always unlocked. I turned the intercom, and I saw her glaring at me. As I said, I have an excellent sense of smell, and wouldn't you know that I always get this very distinct smell coming from where your daughter sits. Now keep that in mind next time you decided to insult me or treat me in an uncivilized manner. I know your secret, and I will expose you and your daughter if you tarnish my honor again. She immediately started to look scared, and I mean really scared. You know the truth? You know what I did? What did her father do? You know why we did what we did? I began to walk towards the door. You and your lover used me as a scapegoat. You hid the real fox by making people think I was the fox. I could expose you too. I could tell the entire village and tell them how to find that mark on her body. She now was crying as she grabbed me by my clothes. You know what would happen if you do that? You know how she would be treated? Would you subject my daughter to that kind of a life? Please, as a mother, I beg you, show mercy and spare my daughter from having to live like that. I took hold of her hand and got her to let go of me. I told you, if you tarnish my honor, I would expose you both. This is not a threat, it's a warning. Now think very carefully. Do you want to make an enemy out of me? I can keep that secret, or I could expose you. Keep that in mind next time we meet. Am I better as your enemy or as your friend? I walked into the office of the Hokage and began to walk towards his desk. You don't need to tell me anything, Naruto. I already know. I looked at the crystal ball that was on his desk. So you know a pervert was peeping at the women of your village? Tell me, Hokage, why do you allow this pervert to do something so morally wrong? He laughed and told me to sit down. Let me tell you a little bit about my old student Jiraiya. Once you know him better, you might actually change your mind about him. Well, if there was any doubt that they were not grading my tests and homework correctly these past 5 years, have proven it beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are indeed grading my materials incorrectly. For the past 5 years, they must have given me the lowest grades possible. The Ninja Academy has a tradition to reward or humiliate certain students. The top student of both genders are given the title of Top Ninja or Top Kunoichi of the Year, and the student with the lowest grade is given the humiliating title of Dead Last of the Year. Why did I need to mention this? It is quite simple. I did my very best to answer the questions, and reviewing my answers to the question, I always was supposed to get 100 in all the tests that I checked my answers, and I checked every single one. I did all my assigned work, and only Sasuke, Neji, and Hinata can match me in the accuracy exam. Only me and Sasuke got perfect scores. I achieved this by working to the point that my arms felt numb. After all this, you would think I would at least avoid getting the title of Dead Last. Well, you would be wrong. In the past 5 years, these have been the titles given. Sasuke is the Top Ninja of the Year, Sakura is the Top Kunoichi, and I am the Dead Last. And I mean every single year. Sasuke, thanks to his bloodline trait, is pretty much the prince of the village. Or at least he is given the royal treatment. Sakura's mother is not only the aide to the Hokage, but also a member of the council. And I am considered the embodiment of everything the village would wish dead. 5 years, and now I am facing my last exam, my final exam that would determine who would be on my Genin team if I am allowed to graduate. Somehow seeing that Mizuki is the one giving the test, I don't think they will actually let me graduate. I mean, these people actively hate my guts. The last thing they would want is for Mai to be able to earn a living. Once again, I finished my exams, and once again Sasuke is looking a bit worried. Sakura, on the other hand, is practically jumping from her seat since she looks that happy. As soon as Irika finished looking through the exams, he placed the one item that was given to all graduates on the table before him. It was the headband with a metal plaque, and on it was the symbol of the village. Every ninja has one of these so that they can identify where they come from. Even rogue ninja have these, except they scratch the village symbol. Trying to scratch it out of anger, I can certainly understand feeling like that. Irika began to call every name. I looked at Sasuke and smiled. Look, Sasuke, we both know you are getting one of those headbands, the title of top student, and I will get either the title of worst student or get kicked out. So relax, they aren't going to fail in Uchiha Elite now, are they? Sasuke looked at me, and he indeed relaxed a little bit. Everyone was called, and I mean everyone was called except me. It turns out I was not the dead last. They flat out decided to flunk me, and worse, kick me out of the academy. I guess I shouldn't stick around. The last thing I need is to be here when every parent of my classmates comes to my classroom to congratulate their son or daughter. This whole farce was bad enough. to add insult to injury by watching them be hugged by their parents. Why was I sent to this place? Why couldn't I have grown up like so many of my classmates? With my parents in a place where I could have friends and not just people pretending to be my friends. Dad said someone stole me. Why did he dump me here? I couldn't help feeling sad. I sat on the swing that was on one of the trees in the schoolyard. I knew that this could happen. It made sense, but feeling it is a whole different thing. That is when Mizuki, yes, that Mizuki, the teacher that always glared at me, came to where I was. You really wanted to graduate, didn't you, Naruto? Look, I tried to be generous with my portion of the exams, but Iruka simply would not let you graduate unless you passed all the exams. You know, being a ninja is dangerous, Naruto. I know that Iruka only did that so you wouldn't get yourself killed. I looked at him, and he was actually smiling. The sick bastard was pretending he actually cared and was smiling at me. I guess I can pretend too. It is just not fair. I went through all the questions in my head, and I know I got them right. I did all the jutsu that I was asked as good as Sasuke. It's just not fair. I pretended to look at the dirt and look really sadder than I was. You know, Naruto, I really shouldn't tell you this. It's a secret among teachers that there is a secret test you can take, and if you pass it, you will graduate with your peers. Who is the idiot kidding? I read every book in the library, and that is both the village and the personal library in the Hokage's own office. There is no such a thing as an alternative test. This must be a trap, and I could practically smell it. Really? What is it? How do I take it? I swear I am faking it, like when Kiba told Iruka that one time that Akamaru ate his homework. Even Akamaru was glaring at Kiba after he said that. All you need to do is prove that you have what it takes to be a ninja. You have to sneak into the Hokage's office, and once they steal a big red scroll, go to the old hunting cabin out in the forest outside the village, open the scroll, and learn a single jutsu from it. I will find you, and if you can do the jutsu, you graduate. See, it's easy. I began to walk towards my home, and as I walked away from him, the sour scent I knew so well was coming from Mizuki. Oh, I will learn a jutsu from that scroll, but you will learn to respect a dragon before I send you to your maker, Mizuki. I waited till it was dark, and sure enough, I sneaked into the office, took the scroll without setting off the hidden alarms. At least that is what I figured until I was touched by the Hokage on my shoulder. You know, Naruto, that is called the Forbidden Scroll. That is where the shadow clone jutsu I taught you is written. Mind telling me why are you stealing it? I looked at him. Stealing it is such a harsh accusation, Hokage. I am just borrowing it. You see, I have to deal with a possible traitor to the village, and I need this scroll as bait. He immediately placed his book back on the hidden bookcase and looked at me. Very well, Naruto, just treats that old scroll with care. It's been in the village for a long time, and it holds all the jutsu and knowledge of all the Hokage of our village. I will help you out in this little trap. I'm going to pretend that you actually stole it and send a ninja to catch you and recover the scroll. That should make your trap look more convincing. I didn't wait for him to say anything more and ran out of there. 12 minutes later, and sure enough, I had every Chunin, Jounin, and Umbu trying to catch me. I evaded them and made it to the hunting cabin rather easily. I hope that it wasn't too easy and the bastard Mizuki figures this is a trap. I opened the scroll and began reading until I read something that looked quite interesting. It even had some strange kunai sealed right into the scroll and a storage seal. I began to really like the jutsu as I finished reading it. This thing was a breeze. I did everything I was supposed to do, and sure enough, all the things that were supposed to happen did. That is when I decided to mark every single kunai I had with the mark of the jutsu I just learned. I carry a few kunai, just a dozen or so. It didn't take me that long to finish marking them, as the jutsu on the scroll said. I finished putting the last touches when Iruka of all people showed up. Could it be that he and Mizuki wanted to betray the village? Naruto, mind telling me, why did you steal the Forbidden Scroll? I know you were sad that you didn't graduate it, but it's so unlike you to pull a prank. I looked at him and smiled. Didn't Mizuki tell you I was taking the secret exam? See, I already learned a jutsu from the scroll like he told me. The look of shock on his face told me he was not in on this. So the only one that was betraying the village was Mizuki. Boy, it's a shock. A teacher of the future ninja of Konoha betraying the village. Alright, I will stop with my sarcastic rant. Naruto, there is no such a thing as a secret test. Mizuki told me you failed all the exams. I was feeling sick in the morning, so he asked me to let him grade the exams. To tell you the truth, Naruto, I was also shocked to see you fail. I was sure you would pass. After all, you were one of the smartest kids in my class. That is when I heard something spinning, and I knew what it was. That backstabbing bastard Mizuki loved that big shuriken he always has strapped to his back. Irika, get down. As soon as I said that and pushed him out of the way, I managed to dodge the shuriken. It came to get stuck on the tree that was near me. Mizuki, you try to kill Naruto. Why would you do that? He is our student. You can't kill him. Mizuki came down from where he was and landed on a lower tree branch. You always did have a soft side for this freak, didn't you, Irika? I guess it's only natural you both are orphaned after all. Say, Naruto, do you want to know why the village hates you? Why they treat you so bad? Irika began to panic and looked at me for a second. Mizuki, shut the hell up. Don't you dare say another word. From my perspective, it looked like Mizuki was actually encouraged to continue his little speech. We taught you the fourth Hokage killed the Nine Tails, and he died doing so. But that is a lie. He actually couldn't kill the Nine Tails. Instead, he sealed it inside a newborn. You need me to spell it out for you, Naruto? He sealed it inside you. You are the Nine Tails Fox. He jumped down from the tree branch and began to smile at me. I know the feeling of being betrayed, Naruto. I should be a Jounin, an elite ninja warrior, but because this village is unfair, they stuck me teaching so that I wouldn't get stronger. I admit I lied to you, but now they consider you a traitor. They will kill you, Naruto. Come on, give me the scroll, and together we will go to a village that appreciates us. I looked at him. I swear Mizuki really missed a wonderful chance of pursuing a profession that fit him like a glove, but then again, the circus only came to Konoha once a year, and that would mean Mizuki would have to wait a while to actually apply for that job. Well, at least he would have lost of time to practice his act, putting on his makeup and juggling. You also said that I should learn a jutsu from the scroll, and you would want me to demonstrate. Don't you want to see the jutsu I learned? He laughed and slapped one hand on his own face. I totally forgot about that. You did manage to learn a jutsu from the scroll? Amazing. Sure, Naruto, why don't you show me the jutsu you just learned? Kidding. He began to run towards me, and I began to throw kunai at him. They all failed to hit, or so he thought. See, Naruto, this is why you failed to graduate. I mean, I'm a clear target, and you haven't managed to hit me once. In truth, I was going to kill you and take the scroll to another village that would give me the respect and income one deserved. No more teaching snot-nosed punks for me. He walked in the center of the field we were at and looked around. Look at the place, dozens of kunai, and you didn't manage to hit me once. You think anyone would let you graduate with throwing skills like this? Where is the jutsu you said you learned? You didn't learn a damn thing, did you, demon freak? I jumped down from the tree where I was. I guess it's time to finish my mission. I'm going to send you to your maker and then report the mission to the Hokage, just like any ninja is supposed to do. He began laughing like a maniac and looked at me. I am a chunin, and you are an academy dropout. It would take a miracle for something as lousy as you to even touch me. Just look around you. You can see how many times you failed to hit me. I looked at Irika and smiled. Oh, don't you worry about me, Irika. I will take care of this. It's easy to get rid of a traitor like him. Why, I will get this mission over in a flash. I took my remaining kunai in hand and pumped my energy through the marks on myself. Time to me seemed to slow down, and I jumped from one kunai to another, and I cut Mizuki each time I did it. I jumped around like that between all the kunai I threw, and when I was done, Mizuki dropped dead. I held my hand up, and every single kunai came to my hand, and I placed them back on my holster. I took a storage scroll and placed Mizuki's dead body inside the storage seal in the scroll. I placed that in my scroll pouch on my right leg. I walked over to Irika, who was looking at me with his mouth open. I guess my fight really surprised him. You might want to close your mouth, Irika. You will end up eating a fly. Naruto, do you have any idea what you did? I looked at him as I walked over to him and helped him stand up from the ground where he was sitting. Sure, I told Mizuki I learned a jutsu from the scroll, but in truth, I learned another one besides the one you just saw. It's just that I wouldn't have a body to present for my mission report if I used it. Come on, Irika, I still have to report the mission to the Hokage, return the scroll, the dead body, and prepare for my execution. Boy, I got a lot of things to get ready for. I began running towards the village and managed to get into the office of the Hokage through an open window. I guess the old man left the window open for me to get in. What do you mean your execution, Naruto? You just protected a very important scroll for the village? Why would they want to kill you? I told him I also learned 3 jutsu from the scroll, which means I know some rather sensitive information. Irika, I am not a fox, demon fox, or even spirit fox. I am a dragon. I had to put up with the stench from that fox for 6 years. 6 years of smelling that fox scent and the smell of his container being in heat for the ever-loved and spoiled cousin of mine. Of course, they would want to kill me since I could expose her. Hiruzen walked out from behind where he was hiding and began to nod his head. Normally that would be the case, Naruto, but you actually protected something very important for our village, defeated a traitor with some restraint, and showed loyalty by coming back here, knowing what you do to report your mission. So no execution for you, Naruto. Here, catch. I opened my hand and I caught something. In truth, I was expecting him throwing me the new copy of that perverted book I hate so much. But instead it was a red headband. I took it and I looked at his nod. Congratulations on a mission that was well done. You graduate, Naruto, and I shall put an S rank pay for the mission you just did for the village. Since you will have enough cash, why don't you invite me and Irika to go out and eat ramen with you? This calls for a celebration. The next day was the day for the team placements. And let's face it, with everything I knew, I pretty much knew the tradition that the village had. I was not looking forward to going to the academy, but I did promise I would go, and a dragon always keeps his or her word. I got dressed and jumped out the window. I began to run across rooftops and jumping from building to building. This was a way only Chunin or higher took as a means to get around the village. So in other words, I was not going to be bothered by anyone. I was definitely not in the mood of having to deal with the stupid attitudes of the villages and their equally annoying glares. As I reached the academy, I saw Sasuke running towards the entrance. Both Sakura and Ino were hot on his trail. One swift quick, and a large tree branch came crashing down and blocked their path. You owe me one more, cousin. Not that I expect you to be grateful for all the things I have done on your behalf. I walked down the wall and jumped off to reach the door before even Sasuke reached it. I pumped chakra through my legs, and before anyone could tell me to get out, I was inside the classroom. I guess I was the first to make it. I went to my usual spot and sat down. Just as I began to relax, I heard a voice coming from the doorway. Naruto, why are you here? You failed to graduate. Didn't anyone tell you only graduates are supposed to come? I looked at him and yawned. Look, cousin, the Hokage gave me this headband and told me to come. You got a problem with me being here? Then take up with him. I think he was going to be in his office. He walked over and sat on the seat right next to mine. Oh, by the way, the two stalkers are coming this way too. What a lousy way to start a day. He looked at me and began to smile. That was something I didn't expect him to do. I know. Thanks for delaying them with that tree branch. Too bad, had you been a few seconds earlier, you probably could have sent them both to the hospital and I wouldn't have to put up with them for a few days. I looked at him and I could help but to sigh as he said that. Look, Sasuke, you could get away with doing something like that. You are an Uchiha elite, but if I did that, I would have the entire council up in arms demanding my execution. He began to laugh as I looked at the doorway and saw both Ino and Sakura look both angry and tired for some reason. Graduates only, freak. Get the hell out. I guess the nickname I came up for Sakura was actually accurate. I often called her the Pink Banshee. Too bad her screams aren't useful in combat. She would really be someone impressive if that was the case. Look, I am not entirely thrilled to see you two either. I was given his headband and told to come. You got a problem? Then talk to the Hokage. They both took their usual seats and began glaring at me like usual. Irika finally decided to come in as the last of the students came in. Since everyone is here, let's get started with the teams. I know that you don't want to be here, getting insulted and hearing people say horrible things such as you don't deserve to be here, Naruto. I heard what Sakura screamed as I entered the academy. Naruto protected my life and a very valuable scroll from a traitor. You might notice Mizuki is not among us. He beat Mizuki in single combat, protected the village and my life. That is why the Hokage chose to award him with being allowed to graduate, something he should already have had it not been for Mizuki not grading his tests properly. He looked at the sour look on Sakura's face and continued, the tests are impossible for me to grade and give him a proper grade. Mizuki used a fire jutsu and burned all his test papers. There is no record of them ever being filed. As much as I hate to say this, Kiba, you lost your title as dead last. That title is now Naruto's. He looked at Sasuke and Sakura before he continued his speech. As village tradition dictates, the best ninja, Kunoichi, and dead last of the graduating class, as placed in a team together. So that means Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto are not part of team number 7, under the supervision and instruction of Kakashi Hatake. He told me to wait for him in the rooftop of this building. I went outside and walked up the wall to get to the roof. I picked a nice enough of a place and sat down. Sakura and Sasuke took their sweet time using the stairs. I still say this freak shouldn't even be here. I turned around from where I was sitting and looked at Sakura. My sheer hatred and anger must have been noticeable in my glare. Look, Banshee, I am not thrilled with this arrangement either. Having you so near is torture for me. Your stench is liable to cause me to lose my breakfast. She intentionally sat right next to me and Sasuke right next to her. It's called a cologne, you ignorant savage. I will have you know it is one of the most popular scents. I was lucky to be able to reserve a bottle. I looked at Sasuke, who was looking at me. If there is another person I feel bad for, it's you, Sasuke. Sorry that you're going to be stuck with one of your stalkers in your team. I wonder how long is our instructor going to sit up in that tree? I mean, it pretty much beats the whole purpose of hiding if I can find him that easily. Sasuke looked at me with a smile. Thanks for the sympathy. Maybe he is trying to figure how well we get along. It really shouldn't take him this long. I think Sakura is a pest, and I happen to know you don't like any better. I looked at Sakura, who obviously had a look that her feelings were hurt. Oh, come on, Sasuke. There is no need to insult, you know. Sakura immediately was surprised hearing me say that, and in a rare occurrence, she actually smiled at me. I had to do something to kill that immediately, or I was going to throw up. You shouldn't insult pests like that. Rats and cockroaches have to work a lot to find food, shelter, or just stay alive. I doubt Sakura here has ever worked 1/10 of how they have to work every day. I mean, look at her. You can't get this spoiled working hard. I doubt that she knows how to wash her own clothes. That immediately made her look at me with her usual glare. That instant, our instructor jumped down from a higher tree branch and came to land a few feet away from us. Nice to see you're getting along so well. How about we begin with an introduction? I am your team instructor. My name is Kakashi Heikate, and I like fruit-flavored drinks and Ika. I hate slackers and people that abandon their teammates. My dream is to one day see each one of you become great ninjas. You're next, Sasuke. Sasuke looked at him, and then he looked at Sakura before introducing himself. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I like training and learning new jutsu. I dislike weaklings and people who think who can use me as a stepping stone for their own benefit. My dream is to find a good wife, rebuild my clan, and punish a traitor. Kakashi looked at me since I was the very last. I began shaking my head and decided to get this farce over with as quickly as possible. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like a lot of things. I hate even more things. And my dream is none of your damn business. All of them looked at me like I was insane. All right, Kakashi didn't, but then again with that mask and how he was looking at the others, how could I tell? How about a real introduction, Naruto? These people are the people who will work with you, and your very life may depend on them at some point in your career. I looked at Sakura, and then I looked at Kakashi like I care if my life ever depends on her. I might as well get measured for my coffin. Now that I think about it, the village is probably going to put me in a garbage bag and throw me in the nearest incinerator. No reason to waste money. Kakashi looked at me, and for a brief second, he had this really hurt and sad look in his eyes. Well, here is how things are going to be. You and the rest of the team will have to meet me on training ground number 7, and I will give you a test. If you pass the test, then you will be allowed to do missions as Genin. Sakura looked at him with a scared look. Even I can tell she is faking it. We graduated from the academy and passed our tests. While Sasuke and I did, Naruto here was allowed to pass out of pity. So if anyone needs to pass an exam, it's him, not us. Kakashi looked at me, and then looked at Sakura. I know what he did, and he was not allowed to graduate out of pity. The Hokage would never allow that to happen. The academy tests were there to make sure you were ready to take my test. The test will be tomorrow morning, and you might want to skip breakfast. He just disappeared in a cloud of leaves, and I decided not to stick around. I jumped towards the tree, walked up to the top branches, and decided to jump to the nearest rooftop, began heading home. I kept running till I felt someone was following me. I quickly hid behind a water tower till I saw that it was Sasuke and Sakura. I jumped to the top of the water tower and looked at them. Mind telling me why you two following me? If it's to see where I live, you can ask your mother, Sakura, and let me tell you my neighborhood is not a nice place. It certainly is no place for you, Sakura, to even think of going there, and not a place of an Uchiha elite. So again, I ask, why are you following me? Sakura flat out said that she was following Sasuke. I need to plan what we were going to do for our Genin test. I figure since you probably read about them, you would have a good idea what we should expect. I looked at Sasuke and then at Sakura, and what makes you think I would share any of my knowledge with the two of you? Sakura would be the first to celebrate if I failed the test. And if both Sakura and I failed the test, you could be placed in a team that doesn't have me or the Pink Banshee Stalker. Sakura couldn't deny what I was saying, but Sasuke just smiled at me. Come on, cousin, drop the act and tell me what you think this so-called test is all about. I know you, and I have a feeling that you know exactly what Kakashi wants to test us on. So how about you telling us so that we can get started doing something useful? I could very well deny it and tell them I had no clue, but that would also give Sakura a chance to say something insulting, so I decided to let them know what I was thinking about. You heard as well as I do he hates people that abandon their teammates. That alone spoke volumes if you actually know how to listen. Something tells me his entire test revolves around the one thing he never expects from a group like ours, that something is teamwork. He probably thinks that you Sasuke believe we are not good enough to work with or even be team members. Sakura, I expect he thinks you only care about Sasuke, and that is true. And for me, I imagine he thinks I don't care about anyone other than myself. I looked at them both and saw that they were actually listening. So here is what he will do. He will come up with a test that will try to put us against each other, something that we can't do by ourselves, and that would end up harming or seem like a benefit in other ways. He told us to avoid breakfast. I say to hell with that idea. I'm going to that test, but preparing like I'm going to fight a serious fight. Sakura looked at me and then at Sasuke. Why should we listen to him, Sasuke? Maybe he wants us to fail, just so that he doesn't feel like the only failure in our class. I don't trust this freak, and nothing good ever could come from listening to this freak. I say we obey what Kakashi told us, skip breakfast tomorrow, and go to the training ground as he told us. I was not about to get into an argument with her. She never trusted me, and she didn't even know the truth about her situation. I could shatter her flimsy look on reality anytime I wanted. Her mother knew that, and that is why she has been more sociable than she ever had been, especially after our little talk. I turned around and was preparing to leave, but I was not going to leave without one last warning. Sakura, your opinion of me means so little then I simply don't care. You want to ignore my advice? Well, that is fine by me. If we end up back in the academy because of you, just remember that I tried to offer you some advice and you threw it down the toilet. I really let loose and began to run as fast as my legs could go. I jumped across the rooftops and up the walls till I was gliding over the wires that crisscrossed across the entire village. I made it home in record time. And since only Jounin used the wires to travel across the village, I was not as delayed as I would have been traveling on the ground. I went through my window, and sure enough, there were the messages written in fecal matter. I do hope the people who wrote these at least washed their hands before they touched or ate anything. A water jutsu and a wind jutsu later, my walls were sparkling clean, at least for the time I was home. I expect the hate messages would be back on my wall by the time I get back from doing what my team will be doing. I knew full well that missions had ranks, and those ranks determined the danger, difficulty, and pay. The rank also determined what kind of mission it was: hunting, gathering, capture, elimination, escort, or some of the mission types. The mission details would be written on a scroll, and so would be the rank of the mission. The missions rank from D to S, with D being the lowest of the low. Glorified chores as far as I can tell, and the pay was pathetic. I could do at least 1,000 of these and wouldn't be able to buy much, but then again the shops in the village tend to have higher prices for everything if I'm the one buying. I decided to close my window, lay some booby traps, and go to sleep. No reason to stay up if I didn't have a good book. That is another thing I had to get used to. The Hokage would let me read things from his personal library, but I had to read them in the library. In truth, I understand where he was coming from. If I take them home, I can pretty much tell they would either be ripped to pieces or burned to ashes. After a few hours of hunting and gathering food in the forest, I began to walk back to my home. My stove never works, and had I not figured a way to use elemental jutsu, I would still only be able to eat my food raw. They say necessity is the mother of invention, and if anyone watched me cook, they would know it is true. A water jutsu through the pipes, and sure enough, I had another cold shower. A wind jutsu helped me get dry, and earth jutsu made the lumpy horror I call my bed feel a lot better. Like I said, I used the elemental manipulation techniques I learned to make the place I live in seem and be a little bit more livable. The next morning, I ate my breakfast, and seeing that Sakura was an idiot, I decided to pack a lunch for myself and one for each of my team members. I know that my cooking is a bit strange, but considering where I got the ingredients, it shouldn't really be such a surprise. I began to run towards the training ground we were supposed to meet. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please leave a like, share, and subscribe. And make sure to check out author of this fanfic. All details in description. Thanks for watching. Take care. Enjoy holidays.